Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Trading Secrets. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. For those of you who do not know, my name is Ali. I have over 20 years experience teaching accounting, economics, business and law through this channel. I'll be providing some stock analysis and a quick update on the $1 Million Challenge. So if anybody's not aware of this is a journey of an investment of $1,000 to a return of $1 million over a period of 3 years using a strategy called compound return investing. So the objective is try to get 201 trades, each with an average return of 3.5%. It's not 201 consecutive trades. We do take into account losses. So for further details about how to join us for less than $9 a month, information is available in the description below. In today's video, we're going to be looking at Mark Basile's response in the Supreme Court of New York, and this is in support of a petition to compel disclosure against FINRA, so stay tuned for that. Before we get started, let's have a look at some important headlines in the market. So shout out here to Kevin Malone, who's shared a story here that has been trending, and the SEC Chair Gary Gensler has been accused in Citadel market maker manipulation. So he's accused of shorting crypto focused stocks like AMC Theaters, GameStop through Vanguard Group and BlackRock, and faces a change.org petition. So very interesting here. And what Kevin has stated here is Gensler is being accused of being involved in the biggest conflict of interest in financial history. So big news here. Citadel stock market making options, market making and side hedge funding area of crime. And the other headline I'm going to share with you here is here we can see from the 9th of June here, Gary Gensler accused of market manipulation in a $2.5 million short position, and he currently, if anybody's not aware, is currently the chairman of the SEC. And he has been charged with market manipulation. So this is huge news, and obviously Gary Gensler, let's have a response from you. So before we make a start on Mark Basile's response to FINRA, let's have a quick shout out here to Richard Hoffman, who's also added another update. And what Richard has stated just today is in appeal before 9th Circuit challenging FINRA's unlimited immunity. Opening brief is now due in August. I will keep you updated, not legal advice with the case. So let's get started. So we can see here there is a petition. It's in the Supreme Court of the state of New York, county of New York. It's a reply in support of the petitioner's verified petition to compel disclosure. The petitioner is David Kasani. He is represented by Mark Basile. The respondent is FINRA, and FINRA are certainly do seem to me, in my opinion, have a strong battle on their hands. So let's start by having a look at a summary of the petitioner's reply. So obviously these are some arguments presented by Mark, and Mark was in a Twitter space earlier today where there was some interesting discussion shared. But let's have a look at the summary first of all. So the opposition is misplaced and replete with errors of law, including the standard that New York courts apply to special proceedings in pre-action disclosure petitions to determine whether certain courses of action are colorable. The tone of the opposition is one of a defendant in a lawsuit, and is an artful attempt to misdirect the court from the matter at hand. So it seems to be very amateurish tactics by FINRA. FINRA is the custodian of information sought by the petitioner. FINRA is the organisation charged with protecting investors, including the petitioner, including myself, and including probably yourself watching this, from fraud and other wrongdoing by brokers under its supervision. So really, just to add in my opinion here, their job is to protect against fraud. We are making allegations of fraud. So this petition obviously is to see evidence of that, which only FINRA has. So it states here, opposition appears more of a veiled attempt to protect brokers from claims by the petitioner and the investigating public in general. So FINRA attacks the sufficiency of the petitioner's claim on one hand, and then relies on the theory of investigative privilege, or should we also say immunity, that is usually reserved for law enforcement investigations to prevent disclosure of the data needed by the petitioner. So we could also say FINRA are kind of acting like Russian diplomats walking around in New York committing crimes and then saying diplomatic immunity. Let's now continue to have a look at some of the key sections that I have highlighted. So the next section here is saying respondent's reference is in its opposition to lawsuits brought by other MMTLP holders against FINRA is irrelevant. So strong argument here by Mark. FINRA enjoys immunity from all civil suits. Since this special proceeding is not a lawsuit against FINRA, it's any reference made to those lawsuits is a calculated misdirection, and it's also completely irrelevant to this special proceeding. So certainly seems to be a significant error by the FINRA lawyers. Just clarification here from Mike that this is not a lawsuit, so why are you bringing another lawsuits here? So this is really a request for information. It's a request for the blue sheet data, and we're looking at the response that FINRA are providing. So FINRA are certainly acting as though they are on the extremely defensive on this, and it seems to be an urgent, obviously objective from their behalf not to release the data. And is that because the data is obviously going to be implicating somebody? So further on here, it states the petition fairly indicates cause of action under CPLR 3102 section C. The information he seeks is material and necessary to the actionable wrong. So there is some case law there provided by Mark as well. And we can also see here further down, the petitioner has fairly indicated a claim for fraud. And I think that is something that I also covered in one of my earlier tweets. And I think Mark has also referred to some of those points as well. So it states further down, petitioner fairly indicates fraud against unknown brokers concerning the MMTLP securities. So these potential allegations of fraud against the unknown brokers, these unknown brokers will then become known brokers. So that will only happen with the blue sheet data. So unknown brokers registered the MMTLP shares to be traded on the OTC market. Those unknown brokers had no authority from Meta Materials. So we're talking about MMAT there. So again, very good point here. So it also goes on to say the petition requires the blue sheets relating to the MMAT and MMTLP securities transactions to identify and specifically name each unknown broker and market maker that listed the securities without the issuer's permission. We almost know, we more or less know who these are, but we need that in writing with the blue sheets. This information is material and necessary because obviously we are making allegations of potential fraud. So that evidence is required, and that could also be potentially something that is a criminal investigation as well. So I certainly think FINRA should not be withholding that. So going on here, it also states, without knowing the identity of the unknown brokers and market makers involved in this unlawful scheme, any fraud claim petitioner would bring would be futile and unsustainable. So we do need that information because obviously it is material and necessary for the allegations to prevail. Section B here, petitioner has fairly indicated a claim for market manipulation. Spoofing and naked shorting by unnamed brokers has given rise to the petitioner's claim of market manipulation. So just for clarification, I think this is something to obviously assist the judge. And definition of spoofing is the illegal practice of placing orders for trades with the intention of cancelling those orders before the execution. What that obviously leads to, it leads to an illusion of supply or demand, causing prices to shift and trades on those shifted prices. So there's again case law action there, and this certainly seems to coincide with the pattern of trading on MMTLP as well. So let's move on to section 3. The petitioner request is reasonable and not overbroad or unduly burdensome. So the word burdensome is also something that I mentioned in the previous tweet with regard to the response in the previous case. And further down it says the number of short volume shares that were traded exceeded the volume of stock that was not shorted by traders. Aggressive naked short selling resulted in the price of MMTLP shares dropping from $8.90 to $2.895 per share on December the 8th, 2022. Blue sheets will help to disclose which unknown and unidentified brokers and market makers engaged in this manipulative and deceptive acts such as spoofing and naked shorting. So again, I think that has certainly been put forward as simply as possible, hopefully the judge to understand very clearly. Let's now move on to section B, and section B is titled Petitioner's request is not unduly burdensome. So again, a direct response to one of the claims by FINRA, who stated that this is something that is going to be burdensome for us, and quite ironic, as that certainly was their job. So competing interests must always be balanced, and the need for discovery must be weighed against any special burden to be borne by the opposing party. The petitioner's request does not unduly burden the respondent. Email dated December the 5th that demonstrate FINRA were aware of the suspicious activity relating to MMTLP securities and the activity that hit FINRA's fraud team radar. The email admits that FINRA blue sheeted both MMAT and MMTLP, thus the blue sheets are readily available. So again, this is something that I also shared in a tweet earlier a few days ago with regards to the Freedom of Information Act email released with Sam Draddy. So, and it's also states here is exactly why FINRA exists. So FINRA this is their job. This is what they are supposed to do. So section 4, the investigative file privilege does not apply to FINRA. And this is something obviously applied to FINRA's administrative enforcement actions and investigations. FINRA does not have the authority to bring civil or criminal judicial action against its members. The power is reserved for the SEC or other law enforcement agencies. Blue sheets are not compiled for law enforcement purposes, so certainly FINRA seems to have very, very weak arguments. The blue sheets are compiled for administrative enforcement purposes and are not protected by investigative file privilege. So what are FINRA trying to hide? What are they trying to protect? We need the information out in the open. So continuing here with section B, the same information contained in the blue sheets has been held to be discoverable. So again, that needs to be released. And that needs to be shared. So moving on to section C, the information sought by the petitioner will not interfere with any of FINRA's internal investigations. So the respondent claims that blue sheet data would interfere with the ability to complete its investigations and will frustrate FINRA's mission of protecting investors and safeguarding market integrity. So what they are basically saying here is by doing this and protecting the MMTLP investors, it would make it harder for them to protect all the other investors. So they can't protect the other investors if they protect the MMTLP investors. That is basically the gist of their argument, because they are saying, look, if we protect MMTLP investors, it's going to take away protection of the other investors. Really a very, very ridiculous argument. So petitioner isn't requesting anything related to FINRA investigations, just the blue sheet. So give us the blue sheet. So it certainly seems to be a very, very strong act of desperation by FINRA. Blue sheets is material in the conclusion here and necessary for the petitioner to sufficiently frame a complaint for his claims of market manipulation and fraud against unidentified market participants. The court should order FINRA to turn over the blue sheets for the entirety of the MMTLP trading history, periods reflecting the alleged fraud and market manipulation on or around October the 26th, 2021. So I believe you can join on this with a special passcode. Details will be available on Twitter and online. So I hope as many people as possible can get in and hear these oral arguments presented next week, I believe. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how FINRA responds to some of these quite elegant arguments. I finally like to finish off by giving a quick shout out to some of the stocks that we called in our weekly watch list. These included the NDA, that was up 7.6% on the week. We also called out IoT, that was up 18% on the week. AKRO, that was up 14.6% on the week, as well as CVNA, that was up 21% on the week. Not all calls were successful, but some of these did tremendously well. And if you would like to get the next weekly watch list, you can certainly join us. Details are in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned.